Thomas Pringle.
Thank you, Corla, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to contribute to the debate today on the Brexit vote in the UK last Thursday. Corla, a lot has been made over the last few days and over the weekend, and attacking the people who, like myself, who supported the Brexit campaign in terms of leaving on the basis that we're aligning ourselves with the far right and with the likes of Nigel Farage and that as well in terms of the Brexit debate. But there's a lot more to it than that, and that kind of knee-jerk dismissing of 17 million people in the UK who voted to leave the European Union, is that kind of thing, knee-jerk reaction, will do nothing to actually deal with the issues that are involved in the campaign. Many of those people, and I know from talking to people who campaigned over there as well, many of those people who voted for Brexit were people who were adamant and working as part of the peace movement, people who were concerned about militarisation, not only British militarisation but European Union militarisation, and who voted against the EU on that basis. And many more of those. A lot has been made about the fact that it's in working class areas that people voted to leave the European Union, and that's some sort of reason why working class people are all right-wing because they do that. But Boris Johnson isn't from a working class background. Nigel Farage isn't from a working class background. And people in the working class areas have seen how the neoliberalism of the British government and the neoliberalism of the European Union has destroyed them and built and piled inequality on top of inequality and left them in a situation where they have been left behind, not only within the UK but within the European Union as well. And it would only have taken all those people that have those reasons for voting against the European Union only needed to make up maybe less than 10% of that actual vote to have made that crucial decision for the UK to leave. So it's not enough for people to, or it's not good enough that you should just dismiss people who voted for Brexit on that basis. And that's the kind of arrogance and the kind of attitude that will lead to other countries actually voting to leave the European Union and as well at some stage in the future. There's no doubt there's a huge amount of uncertainty, and I think that's the one true thing in the meeting we had with the Taoiseach on Friday, and what he reiterated here today, that nobody really knows what's going to happen now and what Brexit will look like when it actually takes place. So it's vitally important that our government puts Irish interests first, something that our government, I believe, has never been good at doing in terms when it comes to the European context. Our government has been too quick to roll over. Our government has been too quick to lie down when it comes to European interests and to the elites in Europe. Because there's one thing I do know and I do believe, that the UK is the 5th biggest economy in the world. The UK has a history of colonialism like a lot of the major European powers, and the UK is big enough to be able to push for a deal for itself with the European Union. Because the one thing we should know in Ireland over the last 6 or 7 years is that within Europe, might is right. If you're too big to fail, you'll be saved like Italy and Spain. If you're too big and powerful like Germany economically, you can call the shots. So the UK, being the 5th largest economy or 6th largest economy, whichever it is in the world, will be big enough to do a deal that'll benefit itself with the European Union, and it'll be dressed up as being, and we hear all the language from Europe saying being hardline and everything else with the UK. But when it comes down to it, they'll actually sit down and they'll negotiate, and they'll negotiate with as equals on the basis of it. So we have to put our Irish interests right, because I don't believe, even though the government says, and there may be a recognition within Europe, that Ireland has a special situation because of our own border on the island of Ireland here, I don't believe that our government will be, when it comes down to it, will actually put those interests first. And that's very unfortunate. It's unfortunate for the people of all of our country and for the people in the 6 counties who are going to be left within the UK that pulls out. So I hope you do put our interests first. I hope you do stand up for our interests, and I hope you do fight hard to make sure that our interests are looked after. And remember at all times when you're discussing with the European Union that this is the European Union that overthrew 2 democratically elected governments in the last 7 years in Europe. It overthrew the government in Greece, and it overthrew the government in Italy. And this is the same European Union that threatened economic warfare against Ireland if we dared to burn bondholders in our own bank bailout, threatening that an economic bomb will go off in Dublin. Remember that when you're negotiating with the European Union in terms of them recognising Ireland's so-called special case, because I think when it comes down to it, they won't recognise too much to do with us. When it comes down to it, it'll be a question of large economies like Germany and France and England doing deals amongst themselves to look after their own interests. So keep our interests to the fore when you're dealing with it, and deal with the European Union on that basis, because that is the only way that we'll be looked after, is if we looked after our own interests.
Thank you very much.